Hello, everybody. It's Jason Grant from Integral, and we are continuing our series of conversations with amazing design thinkers around the world. Today, we have Kristina Ejsing, who has been working for the last year on designing an amazing game that helps us ideate. And she's been working with lots of corporate clients to work with the game and make sure that it works perfectly fine. As soon as I heard about it, I thought it's amazing to share this with our community, as it will be educational for everybody and a new way to potentially incorporate a new tool, fun game to create even better ideas than what we've been doing so far. From a personal experience, ideation is kind of an easy thing, but then great ideation is a tricky thing. And what I would love to today explore with Kristina is how we can ideate better. So before we go into anything, Kristina, please tell us about who you are and how you got into design thinking and all that good stuff.
Yes, I'm Kristina Ejsing. I'm originally from Denmark. For the past 2 years, I've been living in the UK. Started with a master degree in digital management from Hyper Island. And that was actually the reason why I got into design thinking in the first place. And my graduate project with this game that I finished half a year ago. And since then, I've been playing around with organizations. And yeah, it started with with a small prototype of it. I had a rough idea of how I thought it would be. And then since then, I've made around 8 prototypes. And yeah, so now I have a final board game that can be used in workshops. So a little bit about my background. I studied management at university, have a strategic background, been working in management consulting for a couple of years. Then I went into design. I've been working as a designer for a couple of years, freelancing, also doing workshops. And I'm also really into art and creativity. And the game is sort of like a mixture of my skills, trying to merge the strategic aspects of innovation with more creative ideation methods. Yeah.
Amazing. So as you're speaking, I'm making some notes around some of the topics that I would love to touch upon with you. And one of them, one word that I've written down is quality. So at some point, I'd like to ask you about quality of ideas. But before that, please introduce, and I know you're going to do a little slide deck presentation for us to talk about the game that you've designed, but tell us just like actually maybe it's good time for you to go straight into the slide deck and prepare that if you're ready, or if you want to before that, just kind of tell us a little bit before you go into a more sort of structured presentation.
Well, I can start with my vision for the game when I started making it, and why I actually decided to make a game. First of all, because I think a game can be, a board game can be played by both adults and kids along, and it has like this, how do you say, it creates a space or like this psychological safety where people can come and they can open up in another way or in a more safe way, because it's just a game. And for that, people become more open into creativity and into actually being creative. And my goal was to actually break some of them, because there's this like whole thing with that now we should think out of the box, but how do we actually think out of the box? And I found out that not a lot of organizations actually have tools for the ideation process and actually breaking this box. And I thought a game would be a good way to explore how people could open more up in ideation and explore the creative side. So yeah, that was kind of where I started with it.
Yeah, come on, you. This is all an elaborate answer for you to get an excuse for just playing more games, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually it's quite fun, I would say. Like doing a sessions, I mean, it's well.
All right. So yeah, I don't think, like, I found that it's not a shame to admit at all that, you know, we want to play more games, and as we play more games and have more fun, we actually do better work. You know, it's my personal dream to have an office that's right next to a lake where I can go fishing while ideating.
Exactly.
But you know, still to happen.
Well, I had this favorite quote of mine that says, like, "Don't grow up; it's a trap." I think, you know, as adults, we sometimes forget about, you know, being kids again, and, like, you know, or curiosity is more, gets more closed, and yeah. So yeah, don't grow up; it's a trap.
Well, it's an interesting thing about growing up versus remaining a child. You know, there's, like, adults have their pros and children have their pros as well. So for us, it's like about getting the best out of adulthood while keeping the best from the childhood, right? And keeping it all together in a sort of carefully concocted, perfect potion, so to speak.
Exactly. Well,
all right, show us your presentation.
Now, or you can see my screen now. Cool. So yeah, so there's a little picture of the game, and just like an introduction to the game. It's basically, I think I have it here. So it's a board game that mixes design concept to facilitate team creativity, and it uses the principle of blending and gamification as a way to get ideas out, make people talk, exchange knowledge, and co-create with one another. And it starts basically with people inviting, or you invite your colleagues to a co-creative meeting, and the game can have up to 8 players, playing at the same time. Then it comes with a brief. So you start out with a "How might we," which essentially becomes the launch pad of the game. And then you play. You can play for 1 hour, up to 5 hours. You can play 10 hours if you like. And each round of the game has a specific purpose. The first round is more is similar to ideation. So you would have idea generation, where you come up with maybe hundreds of ideas, and then you choose an idea to take through to the next round. So the next round focuses on specifically on the user. So you play around with user desires, go more into which segments are you targeting with your ideas. So you sort of define it more throughout the game, where the last round is around your business models, or your business model. So now you have an idea, you know how who to target, and then you want to develop more about your business model. For example, it goes around playing around with your different profit models. So what kind of profit model would your idea have? So yeah, it's takes you through from an idea to like a final concept when you play it. And in the end of the game, you have this kind of synthesis and evaluation where each players, they are like in the final race for the winning concept. And in the end, you will have one concept for your problem. So that's kind of the idea behind it. a little bit about, I have sort of little description here, or maybe I should take this one first.
While you set that up, I will just say that I always find gamifying things makes it eventually work better than following some sort of management consultancy approach that is usually very kind of strict and stringent, and people take themselves very seriously. It just that's been happening in the corporate world for decades and is got us where it's got us so far. And that's not to say that it's failed, but it's maxed out at a certain level of potential, and now we're looking to take things into the next phase of potential, and this kind of gamification approach is taking it into the next phase.
Yeah, exactly. I would say the game sort of like creates a psychological safety, which in turn create positive and productive interactions. And it neglects some of the power issues that exist in other forms of interactions, like a formal meeting, mainly because people take turns and they all share responsibility for the idea generation process. And the game provides a powerful way of structuring dialogues between the participants. And the game essentially provides a balance between the structure that limits and focuses the attention of the players and the creative energy that arises from all these limitations. So it's kind of like breaking the format of having a meeting in a more playful way. So I start with here, like you start, as I said, like the startup with a problem space, so like a how might we question.
Mm-hmm.
So I call that a design problem. The how might we, so for example, how might we help people reduce the stress levels while they're working? And then the solution space are these new, like I call like new socio-cognitive frames. So the different frames and categories in the game represents their own discourse. I should maybe start with. So for example, there's a category called technology in the game. So all the different technologies that exist, for example, if you get virtual reality, that's a new frame you put into your design problem. So essentially the game takes different kind of frames and put it onto your design problem and let you think about how this frame could be integrated in your idea. So I mean, the hypothesis of this game is that blending these new frames of references with design problems triggers new mental models and gives space for a new solution area. So if you merge the how might we with new frames, then you have a new solution area that you wouldn't necessarily have thought about.
So in terms of design thinking framework and the stages of design thinking, of empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test, which of those does your game cover? Is it ideation or a little bit before that? How do you see that?
I see it in ideation. I mean, some of the workshops I've been having with the game, I actually tried to integrate some of the research into the game. So you'll have, different, if, for example, you ideate around insights from your research. So you actually place your insights into the game and then you ideate around that. Or you, for example, you have some pain points and then you place the pain points into the game, and then you ideate around that. So I would say, like, in a double diamond, you would be in the ideation process, or yeah.
Okay, so that's an interesting aspect of this game, that it's not a preset game as such. There is an element of preset structure to it, but you actually fill the game up with some of the how to describe it, some of the predefined aspects that might have come out of the define phase of design thinking. You preload the game with some of those predefined aspects, and you ideate from those, correct?
Yes. I mean, you can play the game without having any kind of research. You just, you got to have like a problem or a design problem to work around, but you don't necessarily have to have insights or research to start with.
The reason why I say this is because I've found it quite frequently a challenge that even though a corporate team has done a lot of research and defining and so on, once they go into ideation, suddenly the mind is focused on ideation and they forget what they've researched because it's like the mind can't really think of two things at the same time. So what's cool about the game that you've designed is that it helps alleviate that needing to think about what's been previously discovered and focuses on the next level creation from what's been researched and defined so far. So it keeps people on track around what sort of themes they need to ideate around, while giving them enough freedom to be free within that frame. Is that correct to say? Tell me a little bit more about your experience of kind of sort of what might have happened in previous scenarios.
Well, actually, the last brief I worked on with, which was with the Visa, the credit card, there was a girl there, and she works in the strategic department in the agency, and she came into the room, and when I started presenting, and I showed them this video I'm about to show you now, and I explained a little bit about the rules of the game, and you could feel that she was a little bit anxious, or she was, and she actually voiced that, I'm not creative at all, and I never, I don't know how to do this, and she was quite, not really that open to the game. And once we started playing and we went through the first round, she really got into it, and she was actually one of the people contributing most. And she was sitting down and writing ideas and writing. And she was really engaged in it. And when she walked out of the room, she was like, she had like this uplifted feeling, and her feedback was that it really opened up something in her, because she didn't think that she was able to have ideas, and she never thought of herself that way. And after playing the game, she had a really good experience, and yeah, so and that was kind of what I wanted with the game, because I think, as an organization, you have a lot of creative potential, but it's not all organizations that really, exploit all the potential that they have. I mean, and what's good about the game or in that workshops was that you will have, 8 people in the room. You would have a mixture between directors, you would have strategics, and you would have developers also, and creatives. And all of these people actually, come up with, have their own kind of reference they bring into it, and their own knowledge they bring to it. And this makes it just more dynamic and more fluid. So it's a good way actually to bring out their knowledge, the tacit knowledge they have, and it gives, some kind of, it has a little, some, some crazy ideas come out of it. It was just quite fun.
Crazy ideas, love that. Okay, show us the video you've got, because this is something that you produced yourself, right, to showcase the game a little bit.
Yeah, it's also online on YouTube, but this is the first prototype of it. The game is changed a little bit, but this is just to explain the main concept of it. So yeah, you roll the dice, and there's this wheel here.
Just make sure you're presenting the video.
Yes. I think I am a user here. So
You need to do the share screen, I think, for it.
I'm not sharing screen?
No.
Oh, I thought I was sharing now. Oh.
No.
Oh, well.
These things happen.
Okay.
Earlier on, it was, yeah, there you go. It's coming.
Okay.
There you go. Now it's
Super. Okay. You can see now?
No, it's gone back. It's gone back to you now.
Yes.
This is some of the quirks of Google Hangouts. It might be the case that you might have to mute yourself or something like that while you play this.
How about now? Yeah.
Yes, now it's on. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I know what's the issue.
It's full screen.
Yeah. When it goes full screen, then you come back on. Yeah, it can't sort of tick from full screen. This is probably some sort of God knows what kind of limitations of modern day technology. So if you just play it like that, it'll be fine.
I'll play it like this. Okay,
yeah.
So just a quick demonstration of the game.
Okay.
So you start with rolling the dice.
Mm-hmm.
You then get a blue one. You spin the wheel.
So does the dice show a number?
No, the dice shows a color.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So there's 3 colors on the wheel, and there's 3 set of cards. I'll go into that later on, but that's just. And then, for example, the blue category is technologies. So you get biofeedback, and if you can find any idea with biofeedback, you place them into the idea board that you have in front of you. Every player sort of have this idea board in front of them. And the purpose of the game is to create an idea around it. So you start with a yellow one, which is like the core of it. For example, you would have an app, and then you have like, you see this brick biofeedback, and then you have to come up with, see if biofeedback can fit into your app, or how you make it do this. So if you can use biofeedback, you place it in your idea board, and then you write how this brick can be used to support your idea. So that's kind of, I think the example here was like, how might we help people reduce the stress levels? So I write, use biofeedback to measure and control stress levels in the body. So kind of building on that idea.
And is that whiteboard that people can write on with a whiteboard marker kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. So they will make notes on it, and they can like, yeah. I mean, if they then get another technology that they find more useful, they replace that back again. And yeah, it's made in wood, so it's easy to take the brick and place it in your idea board.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's these challenge cards, which are made to think more about go a little bit more out of the box. So an example would be like, make it into a collaborative challenge. And yeah, then you go back to your idea board again, trying to see, add this kind of wow effect, I call it, into your idea. So you write down again how you would make it into like a collaborative challenge. And yeah, so that's kind of the strategy for it. And there's different kind, as I said before, there's different kind of rounds. This video presented the first round of the game, which is the idea generation round. And then afterwards you go into to more user focused. And then you would have cards that's, for example, you would have, I have a cards that call user desires. So for example, how would you help people to escape from reality, or how would you help people be more present in life, and yeah, so cards that go a little bit more into the user. And for example, the next round which is user-focused, also takes you through different segments and different personality types. Yeah, so that's different kind of. It's a lot of. I think now I have in total I have over 2,000 bricks to choose from.
Wow.
So it's been.
And so the bricks are some. So I'm trying to understand. The bricks are like the sort of things that you collect as you go along, or are they some of them like generically applicable parameters, so to speak, or how does it work?
The bricks is something you choose while you play. I mean, essentially, when you're creating this idea, there's got to be different aspect to an idea, and the idea board that you have in front of you kind of assimilates your ideas. So you have to put in the bricks. For example, you would have an app, and in this app, it has, you know, some kind of technology. It has a feature, and when you then have to sell this app, you would have a call to action. How would you sell this app? Would you make a pop-up store, or and yeah, how would you make people actually want to try your app and buy your app? And yeah, different kind of. I just want to show you an example here with a brief I had with Bacardi. And the brief was, how might we make millennials feel safe when out drinking? And what is that? Yeah, so you see, yeah, people here playing around, playing with the game. All of these people are from different levels of the organization. And the starting point again was this, yeah, how might we make millennials feel safe without drinking? And that was the first brief I had. Other briefs are, how might we help inner city children explore life on the countryside? Basically, yeah, you know, all kinds of how might we questions. And let's see.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about where you see the game heading in future, or what you want to do with this now going forward.
Right now, my plan, you know, was to, last week I had some workshops in London with two brands, Quaker and Visa, and I still wanna go now. I wanna take the game around and do some workshops around it, and actually develop it more. Because now, as I said, you know, now I have like around, you know, a lot of bricks and a lot of ideas into how the game should be, and I think, you know, especially during the half year, you know, I can really, you know, I can see, you know, how well the testing has gone, and how much, you know, learning that has given me, you know, to actually make it into a commercial. I mean, the vision would be to make it into, how do you say, a tool for organizations to have, so they can like buy their own board game. But I think in order to do that, there's a little bit of way. And now you know, hopefully I'm going to have more organizations that want to test with me, and they want to, yeah, play with me, and the learnings from these workshops would then go into a further development of the game. It makes it more easy.
Awesome. So in a nutshell, if anyone wants to play with Kristina, reach out to her. And if anyone wants to help Kristina make this game standard design thinking ideation tool, get in touch with Kristina. And if you also are willing to participate in an ideation, game storming, effectively, session with this wonderful game, get in touch with Kristina as well.
Yes.
And also, if you want to help her make this into a fully fledged, industrially designed and available product as well, get in touch with Kristina.
Yes. I would say now, like I spent 2 months actually producing the game myself. I made it in wood, and it's quite heavy, but it looks kind of good. But yeah, it's been quite an adventure, I would say. You know, from the whole production of it to actually, you know, seeing it out now. You know, actually being played with. And yeah, be nice with a portable edition of it, I would say. You know, now it weighs a lot to carry around with.
And so, do you have any ideas as to how, like, once this is produced as a potentially a commercial product, do you have any ideas about what the price might be, or how you might distribute it to companies, or how many a company ought to have? I know you haven't necessarily thought this out yet, but I'm challenging you with a question.
Well, I have to be honest, I haven't really thought of it and at all. You know, the prices, it's not really anything I've been, you know, if I have to, you know, take all the development costs into consideration, you know, half a year, you know, building it on my own, I would say it's really expensive, but but I would say it's affordable, you know. But now also, I mean, I think, and that's, you know, the process I have to go through now. You know, one thing is that I'm there as a facilitator, and that works really well because I can kind of structure it. I know how to help them come out and like break out and engage in the game. And I think that's also valuable at the moment, that you have a facilitator. But I would like to come to a point where it can be a standalone, where you just put it, you know, in a meeting room, and then you open it, read the rules, and then you just, you know.
Amazing. Your life sounds so interesting and so full of new experiences all the time, even in the kind of working, quote unquote, working domain. So, you know, I can only thank you for sharing an element of that with us. And perhaps, you know, a few months down the line, we can have another conversation to see, you know, where you've got with this, especially when you have, you know, major movement forward in terms of being ready with more sort of commercial version of it, or, you know, whatever you need really from the community, let us know. And, you know, we'll look to facilitate that. And, you know, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to be interested in this. So I'll keep an eye out on those and get you connected and see, you know, how you can mutually benefit from each other. It's in all of our interest to make design thinking as household, a process, methodology, framework, meta framework, whatever people want to give a label of, way of being. Make that as much of a household way of being, and facilitate, especially ideation process as much as possible. Like, I find myself to be very creative, but you know, if someone's very creative, then they have no excuse for not coming up with hundreds and hundreds of ideas every week, right? Even if it's for no particular reason, you know, not necessarily commercial reasons, but like, you know, ideas around perfect diet to have, or perfect family gaming activities, or I don't know, fishing places to explore. You know, there's so much to ideate in life, and we kind of tend to take things kind of willy-nilly, and in that willy-nilly approach, we either kind of get stuck in our minds in that kind of anxiety state that you described earlier on, or we sort of just ideate in a random fashion, which doesn't really give us the quality of the output that we could be getting. So talking of quality, I knew I was going to get back to that. So how do you increase quality of ideas? Just answer that for me, because I'm really selfishly interested in that very, very highly.
I mean, you know, personally, I think you increase the quality of the idea when you go deeper into the idea. When you kind of, you know, when you have a problem and you kind of, you know, ideate around one problem and then go deeper and deeper and deeper into that problem and into your idea. You know, as I said, the game takes you through all kinds of stages. It gets you the idea, but then it goes through to the user. Okay, what kind of segment are you choosing? What kind of business model would you use? And actually, throughout this process and throughout the different rounds, I would say that the quality of idea, you know, enhances. And I think it has something to do with, you know, the deeper you go into it and the more, you know, possibilities you explore in that space. I mean, because essentially innovation has to be a break from the known, and you have to explore the unknown in order to get, you know, to truly reach these groundbreaking ideas. And yeah.
Absolutely, and there's actually a subtle point there that exploring the unknown can be absolutely fun. It does not have to be painful, scary, or full of anxiety, and that's really what you're bringing with this game. To anybody, whether they think or don't think they can do it, they can.
But I mean, it's also, I've been working as a creative also, and I found it quite frightening when I got in front of a blank piece of paper and it said, just come up with an idea. And I think the creative process is kind of, you know, unstructured, and I think the game's also like at least I try to structure the creative process a little bit. So I think, you know, it's kind of comforting that you know that it takes you through it in a fun way.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny Werner, who is the amazing pianist who wrote the book Effortless Mastery that we've incorporated into our Fresh Mind program, talks about two types of freedom: freedom within form and freedom outside of the form. Most people, this kind of like mindset, like self-development and self-discovery work that people do, they find themselves in a no mind state, or like emptiness and selflessness, right, or nothingness. And at that point, people literally lose their mind. Okay, and most people can't deal with the concept of freedom outside of form. Therefore, form helps people be free in a way that is meaningful to whatever they're doing. And whether you realize this or not, your game is giving people that freedom within a well-structured form, enough freedom, but enough form for them not to get lost in that kind of nothingness.
Exactly.
And that's possible for even some of the most creative people who haven't necessarily done enough of this self-discovery and self-development work to realize the absolute infinity, la-di-la. So yeah, it's very important to give good structures for people to be free within.
Exactly. Well, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
No, I always say, like, you know, having things to think with, you know, the bricks that I show you, which is a part of the game, you know, that kind of also is, you know, when you're giving tools to think with, you know, you find it kind of comforting that you have something that you have to create around, and and you're just not just sitting there and just, you know, trying to find the best idea in your mind.
All right. Okay, on that comforting note, I'd like to thank you, Kristina, for partaking in this live stream with no particular frame, no particular structure, but we kind of rounded it off in what seems to be a fairly structured way. So thank you so much. Best of luck with the rest of the development of the game. Let us know if we can help. We'll link to all your websites in the YouTube description, and yeah, stay in touch.
Thank you.
All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.